So let me show you how to transfer the bacteria. The first thing we're going to do is light our flame. Okay, here we are. And the next thing we're going to do is start with M. luteus. And again, you want to work right next to your flame. So we're going to sterilize the loop by incinerating it in the flame. Cool it. And then here I have a slant culture. Okay, this is just a nutrient agar slant. So it's just general growth medium, and I have some Micrococcus luteus growing on here. You can see that it forms this pretty yellow color. And I'm just going to scoop up some of that and transfer it onto my slide here that's been pre-labeled. I'm going to put it right in that circle there that I have. And if you had a plate with a colony on it, you could transfer a colony onto here instead. And we're just going to let that dry. Okay, so you close your tube, incinerate any bacteria or microbes on your loop by flaming it. Okay, and my next one is S. aureus. For that one, I actually have colonies of S. aureus there, and so I'll just pick one of those giant colonies and transfer it on there. Okay, and again, I want to work next to my flame so that my plates don't get contaminated, and if I just carefully pick one colony, I can scoop up that whole colony there and just spread it on into that space. Now, we're not using water or anything like that. Okay, we actually just want the bacteria to be dry there. You don't need to add any water or anything. Okay, the next one is P. fluorescens. And P. fluorescens, I also have colonies there. Okay, really big colonies, so I'll just select one of those colonies. It's always best to do this from colonies. So that you know you're working with an isolate there. Okay, so I'm going to put that into the P. fluorescens circle there. Okay. Go ahead and flame your loop. And you're going to move on to here, E. coli. And again, my E. coli, I have colonies, some really nice colonies here on the top, all these colonies here. So I'm just going to scoop up a colony and transfer it there. Now these have been growing in optimal conditions. So we got some really nice colonies there. And this medium here is nutrient agar. So it's general growth medium. The last one here is S. faecalis. And let's see, where's my S. faecalis? Yep, I have some colonies there. Now the colonies are smaller, so I might have to pick a couple of those colonies just to give me a good sample. Okay, so I'll scoop up a couple of those colonies there. Okay, and transfer it there. Okay, looks like I need a little bit more. Alright, so now that you've done that, you want to go ahead and flame your loop to incinerate any bacteria on there. Okay, so now that that is done, you can turn your flame off. We're not going to heat fix this or anything. The idea here isn't to stain it. The idea here is to see how this reacts with hydrogen peroxide. So I have a little container here that has hydrogen peroxide, which is the reagent for this test. Okay, so the test is the Catalase test, and we're going to use the reagent hydrogen peroxide. Now, what you want to do is you want to suck up some hydrogen peroxide. Okay, make sure there's no bubbles, and what you'll do is straight up and down just give it a big, giant drop right like this. You know how big my drops are? One big drop, okay, right onto the middle of this. And you want to do this on a black background, not the paper towel. because when this bubbles, okay, so a positive result here will be bubbles. And if it bubbles, then it's hard to see on a white background. So I would recommend using a black background there. Okay, and so the first one we're going to do here is, this one is amluteus, okay? And one big giant drop. And you can see that bubbling there immediately. Okay, very aggressive bubbling. Okay, you can see that the bubbling there. Next one's S. aureus. Okay, and let's see what that one does. That one also gave you very aggressive bubbles there. Okay, so you can see the bubbles there. Next one's P. fluorescens. That one also gave you very aggressive bubbles. So the fast aggressive bubbles, those are all catalase positive. So amluteus, S. aureus, and P. fluorescens, these are all catalase positive. And the bubbles, that's the oxygen being released. So the hydrogen peroxide is being converted in those to oxygen and water. Now I have E. coli here. Let's see what happens. So E. coli is giving you slow, almost no bubbles. Okay, so that would be catalase negative. And let's see what happens to S. faecalis. And S. faecalis doesn't give you bubbles. Okay, so E. coli and S. faecalis, these would both be catalase negative. Now you see some bubbles there, but they were very slow, and they're not fast, aggressive bubbles. They were delayed. Okay? Unlike what we saw with amluteus and S. aureus and P. fluorescens, where the bubbles were immediate. Okay, so that's it. Just remember, for the catalase test, you're testing for the enzyme catalase in the bacteria. The reagent is hydrogen peroxide. Now, this slide here is done, so we're going to go ahead and put this in our slide discard. And that's it.